self. Let's start. अंतर्ज्योतिः बहिर्ज्योतिः प्रत्यग्ज्योतिः परात्परा ज्योतिरेव ज्योतिः स्वयं ज्योतिः आत्मज्योतिः शिवोऽस्म्यहम्. Offering respect to the Guru, let us offer our gratitude to Sri Narasimha Prabhuji, who has allowed us to be part of the Atma Jyoti Vedanta Study Circle, and to any other Sadgurus who are dear to you. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Respect to the Guru Parampara. Sadashiva Samarambha Shankaracharya Madhyama Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Parampara. Vande Guru Parampara. Vande Guru Parampara. Let us offer our pranams to all the Sadgurus who illumine our paths, whose grace surrounds us at this very moment. May this grace ignite the flame of awareness within us and establish us in the self. So, you're still seeing the presentation?
You stopped sharing it. You can actually stop sharing it completely.
Yeah, I stopped sharing it now. Okay. So we can start Tattva Bodha. Last time we had understood why we should study Vedanta, what is the purpose of studying Vedanta, and what is the special things that we learn in Tattva Bodha, how does it help us in day-to-day life, how our stress will reduce, how our perspective of understanding life, living life, everything changes. So today we are mainly going to look at Shat Sampatti, the 6 qualities which give us eligibility for the study of Vedanta and for seeking self-realization or self-knowledge. So I request Ramesh Daswani ji to share his understanding of the 9th and 10th talks by Sri Prabhuji on Tattva Bodha.
Thank you very much for allowing me the chance to express my thoughts. Prabhuji has elaborated on Vivek and Vairagya in this 9 and 10. He begins with a very statement that happiness is not in the objects. Normally, any one of us feels that when I acquire this object of my desire, I'll become happy. And for that, we do various things. We copy others sometimes. We try to do better than our neighbors. He has got an X model, I must have a better than that model. So we think the object, happiness is in the object. So his statement is very amazing. He says happiness is not in the objects. For example, why people get addicted to tea or coffee or any particular drink or particular food, because we think the happiness is in that object or drink. Prabhuji gives example of coffee. People get addicted to coffee at a particular time every day, day after day. But he says what happens to us when we get desired object is the absence of, after the fulfillment of that desire, the desire temporarily subsides, and the happiness which is within us, within each one of us, that becomes evident. So the happiness is not in the coffee or tea or any other object, but happiness is within you. So he says when you understand this, the happiness is not in the objects or satisfaction of your desires per se. You need to discriminate. So he touches upon the first topic of this discussion called Viveka. So on our journey to in the spiritual life, we need to discriminate between what is our want and what is our need. We need only very few things for our survival. But the mind does not require just plain need, satisfaction of needs. We want X plus, we want Y plus, something extra, something to show off, something to be in the society or to be recognized, like fame, name, like that. So, which are not really necessary. So, one thing is to develop this kind of viveka, which is discrimination between what I want and what I need. So, he comes to the next topic slowly, and he says what we need, there are four things: dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. These are the basic needs of any human being. Now, for basic instinct of survival, we need like a roof over our head, we need to eat, we need to keep ourselves healthy. For that, we need artha to satisfy our basic needs called kama. And there are people who not only satisfy the needs of this world, but they are seeking to satisfy the needs of the other world, like going to heaven. So for that they need punya. They do various dharmic activity. Next is dharma. They give donations to poor, charities, and even corporate have these CSR activities which support the society in general. So these are for uh, seeking satisfying or doing punya, which they will reap the benefit in the next life or to get to the heaven. Because I think that by doing that, they will avoid going to hell, opposite of heaven. Now, this is a misunderstanding, because as Ramana Maharshi says, Karturagya praptyaye phalam, karma kim phalam, karma tat jadat. That karma cannot give you moksha. Bhagavan says, Bhagavan Ramana, that karma is inept. karma will bring you back, whether you do papa or punya, it will bring you the next birth. You cannot escape out of this cycle of birth and death. So karma in any form, whether you are doing dharma or any other activities, it cannot give you moksha. So the last part is how to achieve this moksha. So for that you need vairagya, a deep understanding of one's own life, why I am born, to inquire, as Bhagavan Ramana says, who am I? Where does this I arise in me? And that is reflection will lead you to vairagya. So first we need viveka, and then we need vairagya to distinguish from what I need to do to get out of this cycle of birth and death. Now this is in top 9. Top 10 is a very short talk in which Prabhuji covers only Vatashat Sampati, and first one is Shama, is control of mind, Dhamma, control of sense organs, Titiksha, ability to bear pain or dualities of life, Uparati, that is withdrawal of mind from sense objects, Shraddha, faith in the Guru or scripture, and Samadhana, fixing the mind in God for self-realization. So we need to develop these 6 qualities for mumukshutvam, to develop our desire for mumukshutvam. With this I conclude my talk.
That was excellent. You have completed in exactly 7 minutes.
Thank you so much.
So, anybody has any questions for Ramesh ji? Feel free to ask if you have any questions, any doubts. I actually had a question.
Yes, please.
Prabhuji talks about the relationship between thoughts, silence, and happiness. Could you just touch on that, Ramesh ji?
Yeah. When there are too many thoughts in the mind, there is a chaos. There is no happiness. But when the mind is totally free of any thought, that is a silence which we experience when we are in meditation, deep meditation, or deep sleep. When there are no thoughts, we experience the happiness, because when you get up, you say, I slept happily. You are relaxed. So this is the connection between happiness, absence of thoughts, silence, whatever you call it.
Yeah, thank you. He also makes a passing reference that when a desire is fulfilled, mind normally is full of thoughts. But when a desire is fulfilled, there is a momentary silence in the mind, because the desire has been satisfied. Till then you were thinking, oh, how to satisfy this? Where can I get that? How can I get this? Will it be good? But when actually you get that object of your desire, and the mind is it is satisfied, then there is a momentary silence.
And then
Maybe a
that
few
time
seconds,
you feel the happiness. Yeah.
Few minutes. At that time, the happiness, which is the self, which is our true nature, it becomes cognizable for us. Right. It's always there, but it is being masked by thought. Our attention is going to the thought. That's all. So when thoughts are not there, our attention goes to the self, to the silence, and that silence we interpret as happiness. But unfortunately, as soon as we come out of that, we put that label of happiness, attach it to the object, not to
Yes.
the subject. Actually, happiness is coming from, it is the self, but we think
Coming
it has
from
come
inside.
from the
Yeah.
object. So that is one important thing that Vedanta teaches us. It draws our attention to it. Wonderful.
Thank you.
So I
Yeah.
think it was a very, very well presented talk in the sense that all the points have been covered and you have stuck to the time also. So now we will move on to Preeti ji. Preeti ji will be talking, sharing her understanding, sharing her understanding of talk 11. Everyone except her will mute.
Namaste. Here, Prabhuji has explained the Shat Sampattis very clearly, starting with Shama, which is control of mind, because we have so many thoughts in our mind that we are not able to focus. From one thought, we are going to the other. So the focus in is very, very difficult. So, and our mind is so full of thoughts that we find it difficult to move on. And to control the mind, we need to uh, give it something which is better option, so that it does not stay with that thought. And if we give it too much importance, it just goes on taking you more and more into it. So it is very important to make the mind silent. When you observe the mind, you can, to certain extent, control the mind, because you are going to the bottom of the thought. Where is it leading you? And the mind becomes silent when you are observing slowly. The mind, when your mind realizes that you are not listening, slowly the vasanas in the mind get dissolved. It is very difficult, but that's the only way to keep it quiet, by giving it some kind of uh, option. Like people do chanting, or they may be doing pujas, rituals, to allow the mind to be focused on that. To remove the vasanas, we need to definitely be very firm with our mind, as to not let us take you anywhere. As you are meditative, you can, if you are meditative, you can see where, if there is anger, where is it coming from? And when you get to the bottom of the anger or bottom of the problem, then it loses its importance, and it doesn't bother you that much then. So Shama, to control the mind and vasanas, we need to do the meditation. And Jnani is able to stop at a root level, watching and witnessing his mind. And the second is to control the mind, Dhamma is required, which is control of senses. Like in first, there is an example Guruji gives, Prabhuji, that if you have diabetes and
Excuse me,
you want to
Preeti ji.
eat sweet, yeah.
I think that is the
Ji,
next talk. It goes to Chandrika ji, I think. Dhamma is not your talk. Only Shama is your talk.
oh, it's only Shama, is it?
Yes, only Shama is your talk.
Okay. So you need to. Okay, so to control your mind, you need to have to control your mind. You need to be meditation, and giving it better options is the only thing that can help you. Oh, sorry, I got all confused, mixed up with all the things. And we have, everybody is carrying a lot of vasanas, and those come up with our thoughts. They drag us to our vasanas, which we have got earlier. And to get rid of them, you have to get to the bottom where you know where the vasana has started. And gradually, when you are in that meditative state, slowly and gradually you get over with that vasana and you can move on. The focus becomes better then, because there comes a clarity when you give your when you control your mind and take it to better options. That's about all.
Any
I
questions?
can't think of anything else in
Would anybody like to ask her any questions?
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead, Ramesh.
Is meditation the only means of controlling the mind?
No, becoming aware of your thoughts is very important. So, as anything that you are doing, if you are
Ramesh ji, can mute, please.
you're conscious about what you're doing and what is happening in your mind, that takes, then only if you are silent, then only you can see your. Yeah, being silent is the first step, because when you are silent and you silence the mind, then only you can get to the crux of the problem or where the thought is coming from.
Can I add something to this? Ramesh ji, would you like to add something to this?
No, it's all right for me.
So, Prabhuji has actually said in Shama that controlling the mind is difficult because it is always moving between the past and the future, rarely spending any attention or being aware of what is happening in the present, always thinking about what happened in the past or what may happen in the future. So that is the problem with controlling the mind. So he says, if you remember that the mind is like a small child, you will not immediately start threatening a child or being harsh to a child. So first we try cajolery. We try to persuade the child by making it understand. So Prabhuji says, make the mind understand that the present moment is very important. Why is it important? Because the mind is always searching for happiness. So, in its search for happiness, it is flitting from object to object, experience to experience, past and future. So, make the mind understand, see, permanent happiness or mind is possible only in the present moment. So, bring the mind again and again to the presence. The self is the presence. If you make the mind understand, if you give it a higher purpose, self realization, through self realization, only you will get permanent happiness. If you make the mind understand, when the mind understands, it becomes very cooperative, because one habit of the mind is to flit from past to future. Another habit of the mind is to hold on tenaciously to something. If I get this, then I'm happy. So it holds on to that. So give the mind something to hold, and that what you're giving it to hold is a higher purpose, the purpose of self-realization. So if you give that purpose to the mind, and the mind can get fixed on that, then there is less thinking. Unnecessary thoughts come down. The mind is focusing on the goal of the purpose of self realization, and it is coming back again and again to the present moment. And it starts experiencing the joy of the self. The more joy it experiences, the more it wants to come back. So in Shama, we are trying not so much firmness, but more gentleness, persuasion, cajolery with the mind. The first step. Okay, just adding to what you already shared with us. That's all. Thank you, Preeti ji. Thank you so much for your sharing.
No, actually,
Yeah.
I missed out this topic. I went to Dhamma. That's I
Oh,
had
I see.
prepared Dhamma more than Shama.
Okay, okay.
So I got a
Yeah.
bit
Actually,
confused.
whatever you said is,
Okay,
it
sorry
was,
about it. I'll go through
no
that.
problem. It was applying very nicely to Dhamma, everything that you said. Thank you. So I
Okay,
think
thank you.
now for talk 12, I think we have Chandrika, right?
Hello. Namaste to one and all.
Namaste.
The topic given to me is Dhamma. Dhamma and Shama are much related to each other. Shama is the control of mind, whereas Dhamma is control of sense organs. So, for any action, mind should also cooperate. For any of our physical action, also, mind is very much important. So, when I was very young, and I used to become very angry. My mother and my elders used to tell me, count 10 before acting. So that was the first lesson I learned from my younger age. So that is common to all. So what everybody thinks is, when you are in anger, you will do something wrong only. You will not be able to take any decision properly because your viveka will be lagging there. So, to control sense organs, it's not easy. When you smell something good, some good eatable, you feel like enjoying it. You feel like your tongue will start already enjoying that sweet, like that. Our sense organs are made so beautiful by God that it reacts so immediately. So the happiness lies in controlling the mind. Mind is the root cause for everything. If somebody likes coffee or tea, the minute they take the first gulp, their mind becomes silent. That is the first thing that happens, which they ignore. They will not be able to find out. But they say, what a nice coffee. That feeling comes only by silence of mind. So that silence is nothing but Atman, which we are not able to understand at all. So the preliminary step, what Atmajnanis they say is, start meditating. You will be able to control all sense organs. By meditating, you will be silencing the mind. That silence of mind is nothing but the inner voice coming up. When your mind is silent, you will be able to do correct things, and correct decisions will come out. When you are silent, then only, when you are angry, and when you are little silent, then only you will be going deep into our root level and discriminating. Before it comes to our conscious level, we will be able to discriminate whether it's correct or not. If you just become anger, and if it flares up immediately, the action will be very bad. So Prabhuji, what he says is, anger observed at root level and controlled is only by your witness. Your witness, that is Atman, should always control mind. Mind should be witnessed by Atman. The word he uses is ICU. I means Atman, witness, and U is the mind. So ICU is the better word to remember. All of us can remember ICU all the time when our sense organs go haywards, and then we can adhere to this control of sense organs. I don't know whether I have missed something. Madam should help me out.
Any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Yeah.
Madam, you spoke about silence, and at the same time, you spoke about inner voice. Can you please show the connection, or what is inner voice?
See, as I understand, you will be able to go to the root level, and then you will be able to sense, discriminate properly, take correct decisions. Only your Atman can guide your mind properly. When ivaga, somebody will tell, when you are confused, what they will say, listen to your uh, antaratma, they say. Listen to your antaratma, that will give you the right answer. That antaratma is nothing but the Atman.
Do you mean the Antaratma is the silence?
You cannot say, I think you would have experienced by now, in our service, in our lifetime, many a times big questions will appear in front of us. And if you go and control yourself and then sit silently for 5 minutes, you will be able to judge and take right decision. That right decision comes from only from Antaratma. That's all
Thank you very
I
much.
could understand. I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Actually, I could add something here. Uh, the voice, if Prabhuji has not referred to any voice in the talk, but if there is a advisory voice inside, it is Viveka, because Viveka is the first Shat Sampatti on the path. It is the first qualification on the path. So to differentiate between Atma and Anatma, what is Nitya and Anitya, what is permanent, what is temporary, what is Atma, Anatma, what is the self and what is the non-self. So for that you need Viveka. Viveka will guide you. If you listen to it, it will tell you as a seeker, as a sadhak, what should be your priority. In every situation, it will tell you what should be your priority. Also, Ramesh ji shared about dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So what is dharmic, what is not dharmic? That also your Viveka will tell you. So that we can say is the inner voice. And silence, watching the mind. Prabhuji has made a very strong connection between watching, ICU, Chandrika brought that out beautifully, watching, witnessing, and this witnessing itself is called meditation, he says at the end of the talk. So I think that was very well brought out, good sharing, and I think time also has been kept up well. So let's move on to Nirmala ji. She will share the next talk with us. Nirmala ji, please be aware of the time.
Namaste to everyone.
Namaste.
My topic is Titiksha. Titiksha is the ability to withstand the pain and the pleasure, the heat and the cold, and all. If you control the mind, you control the sense organ, and you control your circumstances. Like life will throw up challenges always, health problems, loss of life, drastic things happen in your life. And the pleasures are extremely joyful. What you need is balance. It is two faces of coin, the pain and the pleasure. Somebody loses a job, it's a pain. Anything happening in life, we should be able to handle it. Cold and hot are external conditions. Joyful or sorrowful, life circumstances changes, and what is really important is how you react to it. Anything happens, you get stress, you get heartache. Only the ability to handle situation in a balanced manner will help you to live a peaceful life. For example, a person loses a job. It's a problem. But you complicate the problem by getting into depression. It becomes two problems. If you are calm, you get another job. But in the same way, a person falls in love with a girl and she gets married to somebody else. You get so depressed, a person gets so depressed and takes to drugs, loses his job, loses his health. He has complicated the issue. That's not the problem still is there. How to manage problems is what you have to learn. Life is more valuable. No problems are permanent. We get humps in the road. We have to convert it into road. We don't convert it into roadblocks. Do not get agitated. For example, traveling in Bangalore, you get to see a lot of humps and pits. You know the destination. Then nothing will stop you. So, like that, if you know the destination of your life, which is eternal peace and happiness, then you will just continue. You will not make a big fuss. If the destination is not clear, that is the time you have problems. You get your focus clear, life is beautiful. Nothing will stop you from reaching your destination. It's the eligibility to handle the joys and sorrows of life. Life is a journey. It has humps. For example, a Volvo bus and a low-quality bus, what is the difference? Volvo bus is a better shock absorber. And so the journey is smooth. Better shock absorbers, journey peaceful. Titiksha is shock absorber. And so you know that the journey is long. So we have to prepare ourselves and have a better shock absorber. A man had a love affair. The girl married somebody else. And this boy jumped from the terrace. Every bone was broken. But he overlooked the fact that he had a long life. He had to live with all the broken bones till he was 89. You always forget life is long. Every shock, you should not change it into a fatality. When you forget the destination, then every harm becomes a roadblock. There is a man whose wife died of cancer. He fell into the well, broke his leg, and he had to live on with a broken leg for 95 years. So don't convert every hump into a shock. Absorb the shock, accept life. You have to face life with an shock absorber. This is what Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkada agamapayino anityaka tam titikshasva bharata. Second chapter, 14th verse. Contacts between the sense and our objects, O son of Kunti, produce sukha and dukha, joy and sorrow, like cold and heat, O Bharata. They come and go, hence they are transitory. You must forbear them. Mind level is joy and sorrow. For body, it is heat and cold. Develop tolerance. Learn to coexist with them. Sukha and dukkha alternate, rises and sets. Others may emerge only to subside. Intelligence is active mind about the transitory nature. This knowledge removes delusion. Thank you.
So thank you, Nirmala ji. That was, you stuck very close to the script of the original talk. So I think all the points have been conveyed along with all the examples that Prabhuji has given us in the talk. The only thing was time could have been better kept up. That's the only thing. Otherwise, it has been amazing, the sharing.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much. Would anybody like to ask questions? Suma, you have any questions?
No.
Okay. So Titiksha is the ability, the two main points which Preeti ji shared. Titiksha is the ability to bear pain, not to make a mountain out of a molehill. Whatever comes, take it as just a small pothole or a road hump. Have good shock absorbers. And Prabhuji said the shock absorbers will come if your destination is clear to you. You're very clear about the destination of self knowledge, where you will get permanent happiness. You will not keep making mountains out of molehills. So you will have clarity, you will keep uh, going on the right destination and responding correctly to the situations, and that will give you the ability to bear pain and stay on course. So, Suma,
Yeah.
over to you.
Yes. Prabhuji says life has to be faced with shock absorbers, and this is called tiriksha. In terminal illness cases, the death seems to be very close, and people become bitter about it. And according to Prabhuji, births and deaths are not the end of the journey. And repeatedly, we have found shlokas and shlokas in the scriptures supporting this. Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jathare Shayanam is one such thing where Shankaracharya says this. That has been uh, introduced, I mean, that has been told by Prabhuji in that lecture also. Millions of deaths have happened, and whatever we are seeing today is not the first life or the first birth or the first death. And so many psychiatrists have studied past life incarnations, and a lot of studies also support this fact. And Buddha himself speaks about 500 janmas in Jataka tales. And Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that whatever thoughts we have at the time of death will be the first thought in the next janma. So we all have to be very careful about what we think, because we don't even know when our call comes. If we sleep with worry, we wake up with that. That is why Prabhuji says, think of good things before sleep, so that you are refreshed the next day. And death is like a long sleep. Life is not a short window, but it is a long journey. And unless one has self realization, the journey will continue. Death is not a full stop, but only a comma. To make it a full stop, we need Atmajnana. And Prabhuji tells us a story of a British poet who was an atheist who was in the last stage of cancer. He was in the terminal illness ward in a hospital, and next to him was a 16-year-old girl who was very peaceful. When this agitated poet asked that girl, "How come you are so peaceful?" Then the girl says she's not dying, but she's only going back to God. Then Prabhuji also talks about a book written by psychiatrist Victor. The name of the book is Man's Search for Meaning in Life. He was that Victor was a Jew, and he was put in a Nazi camp where he was treating people, and people were all dying because there was no medicine, and but there was one person who was glowing. When Victor asked him, that person said he prayed to God to take away his life, but only to stop the world war so that no more deaths will happen in this manner. So, like this, Prabhuji has narrated very well with examples that unless we have a purpose in life, we may tend to make small incidents into a bigger incidents and trouble ourselves. We have to find a purpose in life, and all the obstacles will look like shock absorbers, and this is called titiksha.
Thank you, Suma. Any questions? What Prabhuji has said, that birth and death are commas, like commas in a sentence. What is the full stop?
Mukti. That is,
yeah. Can you elaborate that with a sentence?
When we are free of more lives, more birth and deaths.
So Prabhuji has said, I'm just sticking close to the script initially for a few sessions so that we pay attention to details. It's not that we need to reproduce exactly or something, but if we pay attention and capture all the details, then it is easier for us to present it in our own ways also. So that's the reason I'm just sticking close to the script for this session and maybe a couple more sessions. So Prabhuji says that unfulfilled desires will keep on taking us to another body and another body after we die, because we come back to fulfill those desires. But if we get self-knowledge, that means we get permanent happiness, then there can be no more desire, because through every desire, what we want is only happiness, isn't it? So when we get permanent desire and permanent happiness, and we feel complete and fulfilled all the time, there is no unfulfilled desire left. So we will never feel like entering another body to take birth. So self-knowledge becomes like a full stop for us. So that's the only thing. I think it was very beautifully presented, very nice talk. All the points captured. Thank you, Suma.
Thank you.
Time also kept up. Thank you. So I think now it is Prabha. Prabhaji?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, namaste.
Namaste.
Yeah, I'll just speak about the 15th point, 15th talk, what Prabhuji has mentioned. But when I read or when I heard about it and I was going through it, I read a particular thing because I wanted a clarity on the meaning. Of course, Prabhuji has given it in such a simple way, but then I wanted to still go probe into something. And I came across this. It says Uparati is a Sanskrit word literally meaning cessation, that is stopping. quietism, stopping worldly action. And I actually felt it was so beautifully explained by Prabhuji in that example when he spoke of how a little student, when he's asked to study, it becomes a burden for him. He gets so bored, he doesn't want to look at it. And he doesn't, because there are so many things that he wants to do other than sitting in a corner and sitting and studying. Whereas when he's allowed to do something with his video games, he's so totally into it. And I also admired the way Prabhuji brought in that influence of Sanskrit on other languages, where he said upa means up. And he also said gau. Gau becomes go, cow. And then he again brought us back to uparati, which meant the raising oneself towards that something called happiness, that beautiful picture called happiness. Uparati means the mind that seeks joy. And it was like, again, I was having these questions like, how does a mind seek joy? Because as all of you have mentioned, we are distracted. The mind gets distracted at every juncture. And then as Suma just mentioned about how we take umpteen births. I mean, we can't count it. So many births. If Buddha himself has gone through 5,000 births in the Jataka tales, I don't know how many we have gone through and whatever has happened. And why are these vasanas, the sanskaras, still continuing? These are the questions that I was coming across. And then at that point of time, I came across one very beautiful quotation. It says, the universe buries strange jewels within us all and then stands back to see if we can find them. The hunt to uncover those jewels, that is creative living. And that, I think, is what Prabhuji was trying to say when he brought in Shad Sampatti and said, this is what has been already told in the Vedanta. Shankaracharya has already mentioned it. The hunt to uncover those things, whether it's Shama, Dhamma, um, I mean, what is it? Shraddha, Titiksha, and then Uparati, and of course, the last part of it, Samadhana. Whatever we have to uncover, it is all within us. We have to be the ones to strive towards it. That is what I understood. And then, of course, when again Prabhuji was talking about how earlier, we have these things, if it is forced onto us, the mind tastes that, it is sort of distracted. It's like a monkey jumping around everywhere, trying to get this, get that. But when it is tasted once, that slice of happiness through Uparati, now slowly the mind wants to keep tasting this unfettered joy and happiness. A person who started enjoying this space, this particular facet of self growth, will slowly engage himself or herself in both the religious practices of going to temples, chanting, praying, and see, that will become almost a ritualistic thing at some point of time. But if one realizes that he can get a better taste, a better joy. It's like, I sort of compared my taste of Mysore Pak from one ordinary store to Venkateshwara Sweets. I said, okay, if I love that, why would I go to this? So why would I want to get stuck into just an ordinary Mysore Pak? I would want to go into the better happiness of eating that Mysore Pak, which is from Venkateshwara. In the same way, I think Prabhuji is relating our unfettered, unconditional, and pure joy through raising ourselves, through raising our, our present levels to a spiritual level, that towards natural, eternal happiness. I think that will bring in more of understanding to our lives. This is what I have understood. I think, Vani ma'am, you have to help me out with this.
Was Samadhana also not one of your talks? You had two talks.
It is. Can I do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Finish them both together, then I'll go to the 16th talk, though it comes between them.
Okay. So the last part, that is Samadhana, Prabhuji says that when all the four in the initial stages, like even including all the five rather, that is your Kshama, Dhamma, Titiksha, Shraddha, and Samadhana are all focused towards Uparati are focused, they come towards Samadhana. You get that satisfaction, that eternal happiness, the eternal feeling that yes, I have got what I wanted. Now there is the mind is no more a monkey jumping here and there because Shraddha has answered all the questions. Shraddha has made it clear if there were any doubts. Shraddha has completely answered, cleared the doubts. But at the same time, there should also be a master. And I think what Prabhuji said was that sometimes people have all these other things, but the master is not there. And there again, you have this unfulfilled feeling. But if the master is there and people do not have even one of these facets, the Shad Sampati, one of them missing, we still don't achieve what is supposed to be our eternal goal. But if we have got all these six with us, and then we have a master, we are on the right path. And to be liberated and to attain mumukshatva, one must naturally understand. And Prabhuji also said that we are slaves of life and its circumstances and are not able to control life. The day we understand that we can control life, and how do we control life? It is by controlling the mind and also trying to release ourself, the self from the mind, the freedom from the mind. Then, of course, we have unlimited, unbound joy and the realization of the self. So, I mean, in conclusion, I also understood that endowed with the above qualifications, after having really tried to pacify and bring in tranquility of the mind, there is that particular attainment. All the six treasures, what was once dormant and unconscious, now have become conscious. We all start rising towards the ultimate goal, and that is enlightenment or liberation. This is what I have understood.
Thank you, Prabhaji. Any questions?
What else did I miss?
So, Uparati.
Yeah.
Uparati is, I once asked Prabhuji, so I said, Prabhuji, why am I so lazy about doing meditation? So he laughed at me and then he said, that's because you are not finding joy in it yet.
Exactly.
So Uparati is finding joy. The child finds joy in the video games.
Yes.
So that's why he can play it for hours together and concentrate. But he doesn't find joy in studying. So he feels I can't concentrate. So for each one of us, we say, oh, I could not do meditation today because, XYZ. But if we found great joy in it, then automatically we would never miss it. Somewhere, either stay up late in the night or get up early in the morning, something we will do because it gives great joy to us. So we prioritize when we get joy. So this is a very important part of the sadhana. In Shama, you are cajoling the mind. In Dhamma, you are actually being very stern and strict with the mind and senses. Then in Uparati, Titiksha, you are teaching the mind how forbearance, and then you're giving it right perspective. Don't blow things up out of proportion and everything. So when you've done all that, then slowly, because you have already have Viveka and Vairagya, mind will start getting absorbed, joyfully absorbed. So that is Uparati. That will lift the mind up automatically. So that is the joy in the sadhana, joy in the seeking. That is the Uparati. Maybe even listening to a talk, there is joy in it. Shravana. So that is Uparati, and it keeps you on the path because you're enjoying it. And Samadhana, Prabhuji has said also, it is focus. Samadhi of Ashtanga Yoga has come from Samadhana. Samadhana of Vedanta has become Samadhi of Ashtanga Yoga. So Samadhana means to be completely, effortlessly focused on the seeking, on self-knowledge, never to let that go. Yes, life will bring all kinds of challenges, whose life doesn't have challenges, right? Ill health will come, like Nirmala ji was saying, all kinds of things will come. Job challenges will come, family emergencies will come, just small things, guests come, you have to cook a meal suddenly. So all kinds of things may come. But if we give priority to the seeking, it is always going on in the background. So that is samadhana. Somewhere else, Prabhuji has given a nice example. He says, when two people get engaged, or a boy falls in love with a girl, he's in a state of samadhi, the samadhi of the girl. So he doesn't have to make an effort. All the time, the mind is focusing on his girlfriend, how beautiful she is, how nice it is to be with her. So, in the same way, when the mind starts focusing, whatever else you are doing in the background, that focus is there on Atmajnana. So, that is Samadhana. So, I think it was an amazing bit of sharing by Prabhaji also.
Thank you.
And each one of you, very happy with the way you shared, the way in which you have listened to the talk, and you understood it, and the attempt that was made by many of you to bring in other parallel quotes, or from Ramana Maharshi, or from Bhagavad Gita, or just any general quote which will go with it. So really, really, my pranams to all of you. I think we have learned a lot from each other today. For my talk, I thought I could make it interesting by making it into a quiz. You feel up to it?
Yes.
We can try it.
Yes.
Yeah, just for a change. Not like a serious quiz or something.
Yeah.
Just for a change, I thought it might be nice.
Vaniji, original schedule is to practice meditation for 15 minutes.
Yes.
So
we will, but
are we doing that?
we have not covered Shraddha.
Okay, fine.
So
Please
this is
go
on
ahead.
Shraddha.
Okay, sure.
So according to Tattva Bodha, what is faith? Anyone? You can just unmute and okay. This is the
Vishwasa.
shloka, Guru Vedanta
Vishwasa.
Vakyadishu Vishwasaha Shraddha. That means faith in the Guru and Vedanta. Both of them is called Shraddha. To understand faith, what are the other two words we need to understand?
To understand faith.
Right in the beginning of the talk, okay?
Okay.
Understand belief. So
Trust and
define
belief.
trust. Unfortunately, I have not done the animation correctly. The answer is already there. Prabhuji gives the example of a child drinking his mother's milk.
Yes.
Yeah, it's instinctive, it is existential, and it is present from the time we are born. We trust the earth to support us. We get out of bed and we start walking. We don't even think that the earth will collapse. We trust that the sun will rise day after day. So all that is trust. Then what is belief? Anyone?
When it is not, belief is something which is not verified. When I
Yes.
consider it the truth, but I have not got a proof for it. It's just a belief. I just
Excellent.
believe.
Excellent. From where does belief come to us?
From the society, from the times we are brought up, when we are children, we hear a lot of things around us. And
Wonderful. Top marks. So belief is given to us by society. We accept it without verification, unverified information.
It is like
Verified.
something. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
yeah. Prabha, tell me.
No. I mean, somebody had once told, trust is the mother and belief is the father. Because
Yes.
what the mother has told, you believe that person to be the father.
That way, that is trust actually. But
Yes.
verified fact is knowledge. That's the difference between belief and knowledge. So God exists, or mine is the best religion. All these are examples of belief. We don't really verify. Okay, pick the higher level of reality, faith or knowledge. One word answer.
No.
Sorry,
Faith,
it is
faith.
belief or knowledge, it should be. It's a wrong question. Pick the
Okay.
higher level of reality, belief, knowledge. Even if it is faith and knowledge, it is only knowledge.
Knowledge, yeah.
To know for sure is the best thing. So, what is faith?
Acceptance of, I mean, I just don't know how to conclude it. It's acceptance, I feel, faith.
No, realization that whatever you have experienced is the truth. Realization is yours. That is,
Verified belief. So,
yeah.
first a belief will come to you. Now,
Yes.
suppose somebody tells me God exists. Then how will I verify? It's a very difficult thing to verify. But I can also say, see, this whole universe is so orderly, hundreds of galaxies, thousands of millions of planets and stars, barely anything colliding with anything else. So much order, so much intelligence, that means there is a creator, there is God. So that is, I'm converting the belief into faith by contemplating on it and trying to verify it. So it can't be shaken because belief you have made it your own, whereas faith you have made it your own, whereas belief is set of assumptions made by others and you have unquestioningly accepted. So if somebody starts asking you questions about it, after a while you feel shaken. Do you believe in God? Yeah. Really? Yeah. Really? Well, so that's the example Prabhuji is given.
Yeah.
So is faith the end point of your journey? From belief, you move, trust is there always. From belief, you move to faith by contemplating on it, thinking it over, applying logic. So many beliefs will start collapsing. So you only some will remain. There will be faith. But is faith the end point? So
When
Prabhu
it becomes,
says, yeah. You
when
wanted
it,
to say something?
yeah, when it becomes reality for you, when you are going through the meditation or asking yourself, inquiring within yourself, when it seems the truth to you, I mean, when you believe it's the truth,
Yes. It's not again
it's your
belief.
experience.
When you know, yeah, it's your own
Right.
experience. So, with respect to God, if we take God, because that is our purpose right now, self or God. So, you have to verify a belief to develop faith, and then you move on to realization.
Correct.
God is not a belief, He is not faith also. He is a experience. He is not different from you. In
You,
fact, He is
yeah.
not even an experience. He is you,
You.
yourself is God. So Vedanta's purpose is to help us realize this. What is required to realize God or your true nature?
Through
Easy
the
question.
through the study of Vedanta and to have a guru who,
Ah, wonderful. Thank you. Guru and his teaching, or Guru and Vedanta.
yes, true.
So, whom can you accept as a guru? Two main qualities of a guru, and whom would you accept as a guru?
In my opinion, in
Anyone?
whose presence,
Rameshji, you have to be louder. I'm not hearing you well.
yeah, in whose presence you feel peaceful. You, for example, I'll give you my example of my own experience when I went to Sri Ramana Ashram for the first time.
Mhm.
The Samadhi hall, when I went and sat in Samadhi hall or in
Ah,
meditation room, I became totally peaceful. The outside thoughts reduced by itself, and the moment you enter the gates of ashram, it's like entering into yourself. So these are the experiences which I had when I first entered.
Wonderful. So feeling of deep peace. Then
when
anyone?
I left for the first time ashram, the
Yes.
tears were rolling down as if I was leaving my home. So these experiences proved that he is my guru, and the guru need not be alive in human body, because he himself has said, "Where am I going? I am here." These were his last words when somebody asked, "Bhagwan, why don't you cure yourself?" And you are capable of doing it. He was suffering from cancer of the shoulder. I think everyone knows. So he said, "Where am I going? I am here." And that is that proved itself when I went there first time. I have gone many times. So my faith in Ramana is unshakable. I don't need any other guru.
Wonderful. So we still have some points to be covered. Whom can you accept as a guru? And what are his main qualities? So
when the guru himself
has realized,
is peaceful.
He must be a realized person.
Yes, he himself. See, somebody has to teach us something. That person should first have that knowledge.
Yeah.
So you can accept someone as a guru when he himself is a jnani, or he has realized the truth, or he knows, he has self-knowledge. So he should be a Shrotriya. Shrotriya means he should be good in the Shastras or in Vedanta, and he should be able to communicate it to you. Brahmanishta means he should abide in his true nature. He should abide as the self. Okay.
What is Brahma Gnani, madam? Brahma
Gnani, Brahmanishta, they're all the same.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, how will you know whether a person is a Brahmanishta? It's a $1 million question, because an Ajnani can't cognize a Jnani, but you can look for certain signs. The main thing is the person walking the talk?
Yes.
It's easy to preach, no? It's easy to preach, but are you following it in your life? So does his lifestyle reflect his teachings? That is the main thing. So don't accept anyone as your guru without a satisfactory background check. That is very important. Prabhuji has underlined it several times in this talk. And Ramana Maharshi said, yeah.
He should come from the Guru Parampara, like from...
Not always. See, Ramana Maharshi didn't come from a Guru Parampara. Ramakrishna Paramahamsa didn't come from a Guru Parampara. Right? Okay. So it need not always come from a Guru Parampara. It need not always be a sannyasin. It could be a grihastha. All our rishis were grihasthas.
Okay.
ಬಟ್ ಕನ್ನಡದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಗಾದೆ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ಋಷಿ ಮೂಲ ನದಿ ಮೂಲ ಹುಡುಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು. ಇದು ರೆಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಚೆಕ್ಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದ ಮೀನಿಂಗ್? ಐ ಡಿಡ್ಂಟ್ ಗೆಟ್ ಇಟ್.
should be checked. ಋಷಿ ಮೂಲ ಹುಡುಕ್ಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಋಷಿ ಮೂಲ is Brahman. ಅದನ್ನ ಹುಡುಕೋ ನೆಸೆಸಿಟಿ ಏನಿದೆ, because you yourself are also Brahman. So that is the sense in which it has been told to you.
Okay.
Rishi Mula and your Mula are one and the same. They are not different. We interpret it in a transactional sense. It is not in a transactional sense. So for you to have faith in a guru, the guru should be a Brahmanishta. How will you know? Unless you do a background check, you will not know. Even Vivekananda did a lot of background check. If you have read up his biography, he has done a lot of background check before he accepted Ramakrishna Paramahamsa as his guru. So Ramana also says there are two signs that help us in cognizing a guru. One is, like Ramesh ji said, in the presence of this being, you experience great peace. And by listening to his teachings, having a dialogue with him, or just by being in his presence, your mind is free from doubts and clarity emerges. What kind of clarity? Clarity about your true nature, not clarity about some life problem. It's not like that. Clarity about your own true nature, that you are eternal, you are immortal, you are bliss, you are Satchitananda. So, what is not an important quality in a guru? Siddhis. Siddhis or miraculous powers, they're impressive, but why are we going to the guru? Will miracles help us finally? Will they give us lasting happiness? It is only Atma Jnana that can give lasting happiness. So our focus is Atma Jnana. Ramana says there are two kinds of enlightened beings. One category might have siddhis and they may exercise them. The other category is in their presence miracles might happen, but the jnani is not actively involved in what is happening. He is not even willing that such things should happen. So siddhis and miraculous powers, even then, see, if a person becomes alive, let us say somebody revives a dead body and it comes alive, that person again has to face problems in life and finally someday he is going to die. So that is also not a permanent source of happiness for us. So only Atma Jnana can be a permanent source of happiness. And Vedanta has a time-tested tradition of Atma Jnana handed down to us by spiritual lineage of sages. What is the quality that links a guru to a shishya? It is Shraddha or faith, not blind belief. Blind belief will not take us, it makes us stagnate. So what's the difference between guru and a saint? Anyone? Last question. This is.
Saint communication skill is very poor.
No,
Though you find
very good, yeah.
Though you find peace, communication skill is poor, madam. In a
It is
saint.
not that his communication skill is poor. That is not his purpose. He is a jnani. He is an enlightened being. So his purpose in life is to bless anybody who comes. He blesses them. They feel peaceful in his presence. But it is not his purpose in life to teach or guide disciples. Whereas a guru is also a Brahmanishta, he is a jnani, he is enlightened, and he explains the truth very simply, coming down to the level of the disciple, so that the disciple can understand and realize the truth for himself. So, this is it.
And you feel comfortable to ask anything. That also makes that comfort level with your guru is very important, where the questions come and you are able to ask without being, feeling, no, how can I ask?
Yeah, very true. So let us end our discussion with these prayers. So I think the time is now 6. If people would like to stay on, we can do 15 minutes of meditation after the prayers, or we can end it also. Let's chant the prayers and then decide. Keep all your devices on mute now, please. So we are affirming our purpose and we are also affirming our wholeness by chanting these 2 prayers. Vasato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Dwell upon your true nature. In Kannada first. ನಾನು ನಾನೆಂಬುದು ನಾನಲ್ಲ, ಈ ದೇಹ ಮನಬುದ್ಧಿ ನಾನಲ್ಲ, ಸಚ್ಚಿದಾನಂದಾತ್ಮ ಶಿವನಾನು ನಾನೇ, ಶಿವೋಹಂ ಶಿವೋಹಂ ಶಿವೋಹಂ. I am not the body, mind or intellect. I am pure consciousness, Shiva Swarupi. Understanding that self, God and truth are one and the same. Atma Darshanam, Brahma Darshanam, Brahma Darshanam, Satya Darshanam. All the energy and awareness that we have generated in this Jnana Yajna, let us offer it for the welfare of all beings everywhere. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Rub your